Hey everybody, final thoughts, time for ESSEN. Alrighty. First of all, just to get this out of the way, I would like to apologize. Normally when I do run-throughs for crowdfunded games that are on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, I'd like to get them online and for people to see very, very early in the campaign, so people have plenty of time to watch the video and learn about the game and decide if it's right for them. That didn't quite work out this time, and so ESSEN, which is on Kickstarter right now, I think it's only up for 5 or 6 more days or something like that. So if you do want to get in on it, you kind of have to move fast. Just FYI. And and I do point that out specifically because I know a lot of folks say, well, you know what, if I miss the Kickstarter, I'll just pick it up in a store later. You might want to go look at the Kickstarter page because the publisher, Ludi Creations, they're a very no-nonsense publisher, and so they have like some very interesting ways that they approach fulfillment and whatnot. And if you're interested, all I'm saying is, if you're interested in this game, don't just assume you're going to be able to pick it up at your local game store, because that may very well not be the case. If you want to get a copy of this game, I just strongly recommend you go check out the particulars that are on the Kickstarter page, because it'd be a shame for you to miss out just assuming you'd be able to pick it up in a few months, because that's not necessarily the case. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because, again, Ludi Creations, they do, I really respect how they do run their Kickstarter campaigns. They don't do a lot of gimmicks or gizmo. Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about that. You guys can go read about it yourself. This is not a review of how to kickstart a game. This is a review of ESSEN, the game. So let's actually talk about that. What do I think, or what did Jen and I think? Well, one, obviously love the theme. Just really, really great. Jen and I have been to ESSEN and love how the thematic realities of trying to run a successful booth at ESSEN really work really, really well in all the gameplay mechanisms. Right from the get-go, the particular way that, there's a bit of variability and unpredictability. I talked to the publisher about it, about the thematic justification behind it, and he was saying, as a general rule, while it's not that hard to do estimates on what the overall turnout for ESSEN will be in a given year, what is hard to anticipate is when they will come, because of all kinds of weird factors. Like the most specific famous one is the fact that sometimes ESSEN, the Thursday and Friday, those happen to fall on school holidays. And so on some years, the first couple of days of ESSEN are really quiet because everybody's at work or at school. And it starts off slow and then it gets really crazy during the weekend. But other years, and the first time I ever went to ESSEN, this is true, we were told, don't worry, you'll just be able to show up and get a ticket at the gate. On the first day, it's always slow on the first day. And when we got there, there were miles of lines around the block. We had to queue for over an hour to get in. And we found out afterwards, that's because it just so happened this year it was a school holiday, so every single person in the city of ESSEN was showing up on that first day. And that's represented in these, that you can never tell. Is it going to be heavy on Thursday? Is it going to be heavy Thursday morning, light Friday afternoon? All that stuff. It really makes sense. And at its heart, this is actually a really interesting economic simulation of the realities of running a business, trying to maintain decent overhead costs and all that stuff, because you really do have to pay attention to what your competition is doing. And in the tight alleys of ESSEN, you are in a very, very direct competition with the person to the left and right of you, because those people who showed up, they only have so much money. And you really have to do whatever you can do to get them to spend your money at your booth instead of somebody else's. Every sale at your booth is a sale that another booth lost. And that is the reality of this game. And it plays out so brilliantly between the war on PR, between the direct poaching of having people walk around the stalls and try and draw people over to you, but then being able to properly anticipate how many people are you going to get to your booth today. And so in knowing that, how many sales tables should you show up? And as the game gets closer and closer towards the end, and most of these tiles that come out, you can make very, very smart, educated guesses about what the demand will be. So on those last turns, you can make very precise predictions about what your sales are going to be, and you can decide how best to set up your booth. But that's also in those last few turns when you're desperately trying to spend time with the accountant, so you can cook the books and you can spread your finances all over the place so you can win these bonuses, because these bonuses, they will make or break you. They're really a big deal, although sometimes not. If sales are low throughout the whole game, or if you have if you just have an initial first turn huge explosion of sales, but then the way the tiles come out, it stays depressed for most of the rest of the game, the bonuses you get from these might be terrible because it was a really poor ESSEN. And under those circumstances, it has to be forget about the bonuses, forget about the accountant, and instead try to get as many bucks. But then if everybody's ignoring that and you're the person who gets all 3 bonuses, that's still 6 points, and that can be a huge swing at the end of the game. So every step of the way, even though this is a very, very quick game, you can definitely play this game in under an hour with any player count, because the majority of your turn is simultaneous. Most of the work is done. Everybody's doing all their sales at the same time, and the actions of just setting up your booth and then doing the actions, that goes by really quick. So this is definitely an hour game once you're playing with people who know how to play, and it's only 8 turns, so you're through it quick, and it escalates, but then it de-escalates really just as quickly, and that's really unique. I often talk about one of my favorite things in board games is the notion of an economic simulation where everything just snowballs and keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. I can't think of a game, they're probably pretty rare, that emulates the other side of that coin. It's always about escalation. There's never the deflation. There's never when the bubble bursts. I love that this game actually found a clever way to integrate that really simply and smoothly, that you can have bubbles. You can have speculation bubbles that'll blow up in your face. That's awesome. That is so cool and so unique as a business simulation, even though the business is making board games of all things. So there's a lot to like here. And like I said, don't judge by my inkjet printer prototype. I've seen the quality of the other games from the publisher Ludi Creations. It will be very, very nice. And obviously, actually the real quality components will help playability too, because you'll just be able to look at your stack of people and know how many you've got. You'll be able to look at somebody else's board and see, wow, they've got a really nice progression. I can see they progress. They've got a 3 streak. Can I get a 4 streak? I'd have to hire an accountant twice. That's going to cost me $7 or $8 or $6 or whatever. Can I afford to do that? Well, I have the time to do that. So once the real components are here, I think it'll be a lot easier to play. And speaking of which, you don't have to take my word for this at all. Going back, one of the coolest things about this Kickstarter campaign that's going right now is you don't have to trust me or Joel Eddy, who also did a preview or a drive-through review for the game. Play it yourself. You can go to the Kickstarter page right now and sign up to play an online version of this game with the publishers and with the designers through Vassal. So you could play this whole game online and decide for yourself whether it's worth playing. I think that's brilliant. I think that's a really, really cool thing. I've never seen anybody else do. A lot of people do the print and play where, you'll print it all out yourself and then you can decide. But this one, the notion, you can play this game with the designer. You can talk to him while playing it. There's actually a video online of somebody who actually videotaped his play session of the game with the publisher, Heracles, and the designer, who, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. It's a very strange name. It's kind of an English name, and it's like, I forget your name, I'm sorry, and your name wasn't on the printout that I got, but anyway, very, very cool the way this Kickstarter campaign is. I think that's awesome that you can test this game out for yourself, but you better hurry, because again, the campaign is almost over, and I'm sure there's limited spots available for arranging play times and all of that. But still, very, very cool game. The games for, Garen Piston and Byzantio, the previous games, I've done run-throughs for them too. I thought they were both very, very cool games. This is Ludi Creations' 3rd game so far. They're doing a very good job of picking games that are fresh and unique and fun to play. Now, all that said, I should add in passing, that's all the good, that's all the, that's all the good. What about the bad and the ugly? Well, this is a game that I'm bound to love, because there's so many things I like. I also like, back to the good, Jen and I are huge fans of Seven Wonders, one of our favorite games of all time. And one of the reasons we love Seven Wonders so much is because of that fundamental notion of you're playing with the person to your left and your right, and you're in a direct competition with them, with the way the military works and all that stuff. This game takes that idea and then takes it to another level with the whole notion of an economy that can rise and fall based on what everybody's activities are. I think that's brilliant. And we really like playing Seven Wonders because in a two-player game, they introduce a dummy player so you can still have that mechanism of where you are in direct competition with the person to your left and your right. In this game, as a two-player game, a big portion of the PR wars goes away because now you're only in a direct PR competition with the other player at the table. And while it still works, don't get me wrong, I still think that there's a lot to think about and to try and second guess, oh, they've done this, so what should I do? I do think a sizable portion of the fun factor of this game is lost in two players because you're only having a one-way PR war instead of a two-way PR war. I really think it's a shame that they didn't introduce for the two-player version some kind of variant along the lines of what you do in Seven Wonders with the free city, so you can still get the full experience. And like I said, it's still not bad, but I just think in the two-player, a little bit of something is lost. It's still a fun game, but it's interesting, in a very rare turn of events, we actually got to play this as a four-player game. We rarely get to do so. And it was immediately apparent to us that worrying about the PR in both directions was much more exciting than only worrying about it in one way. So, as a two-player game, I think it's definitely much better as a three- or four-player game, definitely. And then, it's interesting, a lot of people think Seven Wonders can only be played as a three-player game, and you shouldn't bother with more than that because then you're not interacting with everybody at the table because you're only interacting with your left and your right neighbor. The person across the table you can't interact with. This game arguably fixes that by introducing the notion that, well, even that person I'm not competing with PR, I could go over and poach from him directly. That's a very, very cool addition that makes, in a four-player game, everybody at the table engaged with everybody else, unlike Seven Wonders, where for the most part you really only care about the people next to you. So in some ways that's a big improvement. For people who love Seven Wonders but wish they could have more direct interaction with people across the board, ESSEN gives that to you. That's really, really cool. And in fact, actually another really cool thing, gosh, I keep coming back to the cool things. You can get 2 copies of this game, and the way it comes with the components, it will actually ship with enough components so this game can play up to 8. Just like Seven Wonders does. So you can have a daisy chain of people all around the table, all competing with each other on PR, but because there's also poaching, they're competing with everybody on all sides of the table. And the way the 8-player game works is, obviously there's a bunch more tiles, everybody gets their own booths, and the player board has a backside that keeps track of other stuff, and I think there's a few other bonuses that get added as well, so you're competing on more stuff. The 8-player game sounds really, really awesome. It sounds, again, like a high player count of Seven Wonders, but with interactivity across the board. So again, that's a lot of really cool, neat stuff in this game. But I'm still trying to talk about the stuff that Jen and I don't like. And for us, and if you've watched my other videos, you're not going to be surprised by this at all. You might be even surprised I did a run-through for the game at all, because Jen and I try to avoid games with a lot of direct, what is generally called interaction, but we call attacking. And this game is all about poaching and stealing from each other and spending a good deal of your time plotting and planning to when best to do that, either to hit somebody else or to protect yourself from being hit. And if you're going to protect yourself from being hit, how can you turn that to your advantage and maybe hit somebody else, and all that stuff. So this game, just fair warning, it's hugely interactive. So that makes it really not a game for me and Jen, because we only play 2-player. And I think the game, while it still works just fine as a 2-player game, it definitely loses something. And it features a lot of I will steal from you, you protect yourself, and then you steal from me, one-upsmanship, and that doesn't really work for me and Gen 2. So unfortunately, while the game itself is just not necessarily a keeper for us, I can certainly see anybody who ever tried Seven Wonders and said, wow, this is kind of neat, but the gameplay itself was kind of shallow. Can't there be some more meaty, fun gameplay I'm doing? And can't I interact with people on the other side of the board? That's what you get with this game. And that, I think, makes it actually a very, very cool. And I suspect there's probably a lot of people who would love this game. And so, if you are one of those people, you should definitely, like I said, do not walk to the Kickstarter page. See if you can still arrange one of those online play sessions. You can play it for yourself, but just bear in mind, if you miss the Kickstarter campaign, you might not get a chance, depending on where you are, to get it again. But again, you can find out more about that. I don't know a lot of the particulars, but I just want to give you people warning, because 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. You're safe in saying, I'll pass on it, I'll get it later. Luda Creations, the publisher, works in a different way. It's worthwhile to go learn how that is. Anyway, though, that's it, folks. that was ESSEN. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, as always, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to leave you right there. If there's any errors, of course, I will Paula will make annotations for them. But otherwise, I wish you guys a very happy day. Hope to see you at ESSEN this year. Jen and I will both be in ESSEN, Germany at the end of October 2014. See you there. Have a good day. Bye-bye.